Our early celebration of International Coaching Week, and we are exploring a highly relevant and insightful theme, the dance between personality and coaching. Now, when we speak of this dance, we are referring to the dynamic interplay between the coach's personality and the client's personality, an exchange that can only profoundly influence the direction and the impact of a coaching journey. And today's conversation will explore how greater awareness of personality can help us as coaches elevate our outcomes. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our distinguished panel. First, we have Mr. Sandeep Jain, an ICF PCC coach with over 25 years of leadership experience across the Asia Pacific region. As the CEO and founder of Value Unlocked Private Limited, Sandeep coaches CXOs and leadership teams, consults on transformation and change management, and mentors startups. Previously associated with HT Media, Perfetti, Gillette, and Ranbaxy, he is also the author of Chase the Change and a regular contributor to Economic Times, Hindustan Times, Financial Express, the ICF blog Coaching World, and the Forbes Coach Council. Welcome, Sandeep.
Thank you.
Welcome. Next, we have Mrs. Gayatri Krishnamurthy, an accomplished executive coach with 35 years of experience in human resources and leadership development. Gayatri brings not only a strategic mindset, but also her passion for travel, trivia, and reflective leadership coaching. She is based in Bangalore and enjoys writing insightful pieces drawn from her rich professional and personal experiences. Welcome, Gayatri.
Thank you so much.
Joining us as well is Mrs. Aarti Rajan, who brings over 25 years of cross-industry experience coaching leaders, teams, and especially women professionals. Aarti integrates a systemic approach with Vedic wisdom to support sustainable growth. She is also a passionate volunteer, facilitator, and intuitive guide dedicated to fostering meaningful transformation. Welcome, Aarti.
Thank you.
Finally, we have Mr. Sanjeev Bhatia, who will be moderating today's discussion. Sanjeev supports purpose-driven leaders in finding their living message and building impact-driven careers. With an experience of over 36 years, he is an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad and combines business acumen with soulful coaching, guiding clients to align with their values, lead consciously, and create meaningful change. Welcome, Sanjeev ji.
Thank you.
We are also thrilled to have Mr. Rahul Baswani, India partner at Lumina Learning, whose leadership continues to champion a more human, inclusive, and insightful approach to learning and development. Welcome, Rahul. Here's to a rich and thought-provoking conversation. And with that, I'll hand over to Sanjeev ji to moderate today's discussion.
Thank you, Mehak. Both of you, I think you have done quite a lot of work behind the scene, and I know that it's not been easy for you as well. So Sonam and Mehak, thank you very much for organizing it. Well, friends, the dynamics interplay between the personality and the external coaching forms a vital axis in the personal and professional development that you all know about. Personality shapes how individuals receive the guidance, while coaching strategies adapt to unlock the unique potential. Understanding this dance enhances both the coach's effectiveness and the coach's growth. And that's where the topic we have brought in here by the Lumina India, and I'm personally very thankful to the team of Lumina India, Rahul, and others who really made me to moderate this panel discussions. Definitely, I have a lot of questions. My panelists definitely are having much more knowledge what I have. And believe me, your collective knowledge is not only make me more wiser, but the audience here as well. So I'm going to give you just to start the discussion, it's the opening question, and I want all three of you to take 2 minutes, not more, because I have a lot of inquisitivity in my mind like any other coach. And I'm budding coach. I'm not as professional as you are. So yes, my first question is to all of you, and any one of you feel like taking the first chance, it's perfectly, you're welcome. So start off, how each one of you look at or describe the relationship between the personality and coaching in your work. And before you jump, I put another question. Unlike coach, the second question is coming up. Is it more like a dance or a negotiation or something else entirely, which I am unable to really perceive at the moment? So open both the questions to all three of you. Anyone?
I can go if you want to share my views on this. So I will go with the metaphor of dance. I think it's a great metaphor. And I'll further qualify it to say it's a subtly executed tango between personality and the coaching process. And why I use the word tango is because it needs both for it to become a watchable dance, an enjoyable dance. So I think the client's personality, to my mind, brings the tempo, the intensity, the resistance sometimes, and the openness. While the coaching process, brings in the structure, the rhythm, maybe sometimes the quiet insistence on movement, for example. And the interesting thing is that in this dance, neither dominates. I think both adjust, anticipate, and go a little bit with the flow. So that's the way I look at it.
Thank you. You chose dance over negotiation. Perfectly fine. Gayatri and Aarti, anyone?
Yeah, so let me go next. So definitely it's not a negotiation, but I was just thinking about it, whether it's a jazz concert or it's a dance. I guess it can be both. And when I think of dance, I have two left foot, okay? So I can't dance. But I have very close friends and relatives who dance, and I know that, there are different parts of dance, right? Nritya, Natya, Abhinaya. So I need not be very dynamic. The coachee can be dynamic and vice versa. So it is definitely a synchronization, and whether it's a tango or, bhangra, it can change from moment to moment. But it's definitely not a negotiation, because I cannot imagine any coaching conversation being about tutu meme and, getting into winning and losing. So that's my two.
Thank you. Aarti.
Absolutely. So as Gayatri said, it is, it just resonates, both of them, whatever said, that it is definitely not a negotiation. It is not that tutu meme. So it can be a dance, it can be a beautiful ensemble. You need to understand that within one coaching session, there are two personalities and then one powerful process, which is there. And there is an interaction between all the three of them. And where coach understands, coach knows that the coachee has to take the lead, coachee has to define the direction. The pace is of coachee. And what comes out is beautiful ensemble. It's a symphony. And where all the emotions are interwoven, insights are there. So it's definitely a dance or a symphony for me.
Great. Thank you. So my next question is to Sandeep. Have you ever found that your personality got in a way of an effective coaching session? And if at all it happened, because I have seen sometimes after first session, the coachee may not respond. Or sometimes you feel like this guy is not coachable, at least not by me. So have you found any point of time like this, and how did you handle it?
For sure, I think quite a few times, my personality as a coach, which is predominantly extroverted, for example, and the drive for clarity is very strong, and it's nudged me to get into solutioning very quickly, and sometimes leads to frustration that why can't, for example, the coachee do this, and why can't he think about it, and why, but then I have learned over a period of time that sometimes you just need to create the space for the client to be in that space of ambiguity, because that's how the clarity emerges. And the only way that I've been able to do this is by dialing down actually my instinct to steer. And you have to remain conscious of the fact that it's not my race to run, but it's their race to discover for themselves. And the more conscious I remain of that, I think the more I'm able to rein in my, the need to fix things and, let the process take over. And as we believe in coaching, if you trust the process, certainly a lot of things emerge. And, we all know that, but sometimes we forget. And for me also, it's been the same, that coaching is not always about action. A lot of times it's about awareness and acceptance. And the more I have kind of remained conscious of that, the more I've been able to do justice to this.
Love that. How about you, Aarti?
So for me, definitely yes, personality does get in between the coaching process, and I have a very, very strong goal focused, outcome focused kind of personality. So especially during my practice days when I was learning to be a coach, that time I noticed these things, that if the coachee is not willing to decide the objective of the session or willing to commit to a particular objective, unless and until I have that clarity, I used to feel very uncomfortable about the whole process. So if the coachee is not committing to that any particular objective, I sort of used to guide or say that, okay, let us decide this first. And then I realized that, okay, this is my personality which is coming in the way. It is not, the coachee doesn't want it at this point. Maybe the exploration comes first for the coachee, and maybe in the middle of the session or towards maybe last 15 minutes, this is what I wanted to achieve, and oh, so much I've already explored. So that is something which I learned during my practice days. I took it to my mentor also. I spoke to my mentor about it. And that awareness is something which helped. Sometimes what happened with me is coaching is also maybe outcome focused, but initially while explaining that this is what I want to achieve in this coaching session, coach used to drop some very, very important hints, or some very important cues used to be there. And there used to be, intuitively, I used to feel that I need to explore these cues right then and there. But that outcome focus, because of that, there used to be some kind of dissonance. And that dissonance used to trouble me. So both of these issues, mainly I faced during my practice days, and being aware of those issues actually helped me got over it. And I just now let it go. Not so much attached to that one particular thing and one clarity and the goal focus.
Beautiful. So what I heard from both of you is you're talking about the clarity, and definitely initially when you start coaching practices, you bring the clarity. You want clarity, and that's what in the coaching word, we call it an agenda. Setting the agenda at the beginning, and that takes time, which of course a new coach will find it difficult. A mature coach will always say, yeah, let it go and let it explore by asking question, further question, further question. That will bring the clarity on the agenda itself, which we may call it an awareness. And from there, the coach will moves fast, really fast. Thank you much. Lovely answers. So let's talk about now the roles of the coach in this dance. So over to Gayatri now. Should the coaches adapt their role to suit the client's personality, or should they stay true to their own coaching philosophy? Or maybe, so where's the line actually?
I think how broad your philosophy is the first line. So if your philosophy is very narrow, of course, sticking to it becomes a problem. But I think if I don't stay true to my personality, I will not come across authentically. So I would think that I will stay to my personality. But how certain areas, for example, it could just be language, it could be the speed of speaking, it could be the context, it could be the culture. adapt the delivery to that, but I would stay true to my personality and reflect on my personality, especially if it comes to something like what Aarti and Sandeep talked about, which is a clash. You know,
Sorry,
there's a
repeat again, and can you be louder,
I
please?
said, yeah, I said if there's a clash or conflict in the personality, I think I would reflect to see where my personality, do I need to change it? But I will stay true to the personality, but reflect on it for sure.
Okay. Thank you much. And what about you, Sandeep?
So I would not, let me not use the word coaches should or shouldn't. Let me put in a flavor of what I do, because that's the only thing, honestly, I know. Uh, for me, I certainly adjust my style to suit client's personality. I'm very clear about it. But I do it in a way that I don't compromise on the core philosophy of coaching. And I would say that it is like refining to the needs of the coachee or the client, but not redefining the entire process. That's the way I look at it. I think eventually every coaching engagement is a dynamic, and every session actually is a dynamic interplay between the coach, the coachee, and what we are trying to achieve in that coach-coachee relationship. So obviously, it is neither fully the coachees, while it is the client's agenda, but at the same time, the coach is there also to serve a purpose. And there is a need for you to adjust so that you are able to get the client into the space where they can think for themselves, they can, think through their blind spots, etc. And this line is certainly thin. It's rooted a little bit in self-awareness and purpose, I would say. So for me, it's staying rooted to the values, the ethics of coaching, the approach as a coach, but flexing my method so that it serves the client the best. So that's really what it is. And if I was to borrow, somebody mentioned jazz earlier. So it's like, while the melody may be the client's, but I have learned to a little bit improvise the rhythm so that it goes with that melody. So that's the way I think.
I just like the both answers because one is saying that if I'm not aligned, I will try and align. And yes, I'll check the philosophy, yeah, within the boundaries. And I think you said the same thing in a slightly different word. Then we say, yes, I'll adjust it, my own personality, but not beyond my own coaching philosophy. Both the things been said in the same thing. Is something like if we are dancing partner, sometimes is not necessarily the partner has to dance to your tune. Maybe you start enjoying the dance, and if you're a dancer, and if you're dancing with someone else, when the swings are aligned to your partner, you enjoy the most. And I think coaching is a coach really enjoys when you align with your client or the coachee to get the results in favor of the client. Lovely.
Yeah, and if I can add, if you're aligned, you won't step on each other's foot, so
Yeah.
the dance can
Yes.
continue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Lovely. So over to Sandeep. What are some personality traits in the client that you find particularly challenging or sometimes energizing? Sometimes obstruction, sometimes, wow, I love it. And to work
Yeah.
with, and why?
So for me, what I find really energizing is when people generally on the other side, the clients are curious, they are reflective, they are open to being challenged, actually. And that is, I think, which kind of creates that space for transformation or for further exploration. And obviously, they would be God sent if they were to also follow up on their commitments, because that really then is the best client that you can get. What I find challenging is, clients who are both extremes, who are either very full of themselves and believe that this is what it is, and there is nobody who can kind of who knows better, who can help, who don't trust the process of coaching, but still go through it because maybe it's been shoved through their pushed to them through the organization. And also on the other extreme, clients who are overly agreeable, and even if they get a little bit of a hint that this is what the coach wants to hear, then yes, this is the way it should be done, because that again is only going to be really just lip service to the entire coaching engagement. And eventually it's all about the ethics of coaching and what the skills that we bring as, with presence, empathy, curiosity, and that's what kind of creates a little bit of a calibrated, yet challenging environment the for the clients to kind of, get value out of the engagement, let's say.
What about you, Aarti?
So for me, what I have observed, and this is through the reflection practice which I have after the coaching sessions, which I realize that this is what I like and this is where I feel energized, is when a coachee is off to creating something big, some big transformation or a change, or coachee is not in very much hurry, but willing to go through that transformative process, is committed fully. That is something which energizes me. And what I find quite challenging, and with awareness, I do navigate those situations. However, what I feel challenging is if somebody is talking about something like, tomorrow is this particular meeting, and I want to find out a solution in this coaching session only for that tomorrow's meeting. So which becomes completely transactional. This is what I want to do. One, I will do this. Two, I will do this. So that is not very energizing for me. That somewhere troubles me, that this is not which is going to have any long-term impact on you. However, because of my own personality, or because of that long-term focus which I have, I do ask that question, that can you extend it to something else also in your life? Do you find it? But I have noticed that is something which is quite challenging for me to go through.
Good. So I think both of you have a commonality by saying that you love the clients who are ready to explore. You love the clients who are really curious. What's next, how it's coming up. However, some of these challenges more towards client who have their own beliefs, a bit of stubborn, believing themselves, they know it all. And the artist is then they want a quick fix.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. But yes, both are challenges and both are also the opportunities to explore more. Well, let's talk about the dynamics now between the client and the coach. So over to you, Aarti. In your experience, what happens when a coach and the client have, so to say, a conflicting personality? Can the tension be productive in coaching?
What I feel is there is sometimes that little bit of tension can be productive. And let me just compare it with that Indian classical music. Some jugalbandi happens there. So both the singers or both the musicians are from different gharanas. They have different style. Their pace is different. Everything is different, but their goal is same. So similar to that, when there is a same goal that they want to create that music, they want to create that beautiful experience, beautiful emotions have to be evoked in people. So when that goal is same, that time what is required is respect for each other and the emotional resonance. So if that is there, that even if there is a tension because of two different personalities, it becomes more of a productive tension sometimes. But beyond that, if because of your personalities are different and the tension is getting created because you want to show yourself as superior and there is no respect for each other, coach is not holding the non-judgmental space, then it is a problem. But to an extent, some little bit of tension, I feel, is definitely productive.
Lovely. What about you, Gayatri? How will you respond to this?
So I'm a very structured and logical person. So I handle some of it right in the chemistry call, because if the personalities are that conflicting and there is no possibility of a jugalbandi, then I will really question and ask them. I have even asked some of my clients to choose a different coach, who will perhaps serve them better. Having said that, coming to the coaching conversation, I'm a very curious person. So when I find someone whose personality is very different, I'm pretty curious to know how that works. And in life itself, my own husband's personality is absolutely opposite. We are still married and it's working, So I think don't have an issue of the client's personality being different as long as the intent is clear that they want to be coached and they have goals. I may have differences with the goals because of my personality. I may be wondering why do you need this? Why do you need that? But I don't let that come in because it's up to them. So they are giving me the space to be myself. So I will give my client the space to be themselves. And the tension is quite energetic. Imagine having a very stale talk with the coachee who is just giving biographic details or something. I think the personality adds the tadaka to the coaching conversation. So I'm quite okay in handling conflicting.
So what you're saying, if somebody can handle the spouse, can be a better coach.
Yes. If the spouse has such conflicting personality, I'm only talking about my.
No, it's a food for thought for everyone present here. Check with the spouse. If they're different, be happy about it. Because you have a chance to coach yourself than coaching
I
your
think
wife
so.
or husband.
So imagine I'm structured and the other person is flexible.
No, that's nice.
Could have the best of both worlds. It's a possibility.
So I love that example, in fact. And yes, a little bit of tension is fine. Sometimes the opposite personality can lead to a bigger conflicts. But if you are really a nice coach, you can handle those things also. And that's where your coach-like quality comes into play.
So Sanjeev, if I can just add.
No wonder. I know as long as you're not referring to your spouse, fine, please come.
No, I'm not. Not at least as of now. In fact, I want to say that having conflicting personalities is actually good. Because the way I look at it is that if you have to discover your blind spots, if you have to trigger reflection, if you have to get into deeper awareness and growth, you really have to have somebody who has a conflicting personality versus you. As coaches, we obviously curb our personalities to remain non-judgmental to some extent, etc., etc. But if you look at it, I think the growth happens when you are faced with somebody who thinks differently than the way you think.
You're right. In fact,
that is why the organizations value diversity, right?
Yeah, no, what you're saying is right, no doubt about it. And that's where the next question comes very, very close to that. What you said is definitely, Sandeep, now I'm going to give you this question, ask you this, that how do you handle the clients who are highly successful, but have personality traits that are counterproductive to the team or the organizational growth? And if said it's an opportunity, how you take this opportunity?
Yeah. So the coach in this case, and sometimes I have to challenge myself to be in that space, especially when you are coaching senior leaders, CEOs, etc. That how effectively can you hold the mirror to them? It has to be done gently, but it has to be done clearly. They should be able to see what is the impact their behaviors are having on the larger organization. They should understand that their success is not because of their behaviors, but despite their behaviors. Had they behaved differently, the impact could have been possibly even more positive, actually. And I think this is also the time, as we say that, for us to, through effective questioning, etc., make them think that how sometimes your strengths itself become your weaknesses when they are practiced in extreme. And that is why in engagements like this, for me, it's a great opportunity if I can get a psychometric tool in, for example, a Lumina Spark or even a Lumina 360, because then the data speaks for itself.
That's good.
And it becomes an absolutely fantastic starting point, lot of things that, and the good thing is there is no way that the client can challenge it because it's come out of how they have responded, for example, to a Lumina Spark assessment, let's say.
So what do you think as a Lumina Spark is good or Lumina 360 is good? I is only
It
for
depends,
those
I
who
think.
understand this, but the question is to you.
Yeah, so for me, I have, even in the same engagement, sometimes leveraged to both the assessments. Even in a team coaching engagement recently, I started with Lumina Spark at the start of the journey. And then about 3-4 months down the line, once there was enough trust in the team, I moved them to the Lumina 360. Same engagement over 8 months, we had both the assessments. And I think both of them have value.
Excellent. What about you, Aarti, if you come across this kind of highly successful person, but having a counterproductive personality for the team and the organization's growth?
So in these kind of cases, even Sandeep said that showing the mirror is the most important thing. And many a times what coaches come across is these people at the senior level are not willing to accept it. So to get that acceptance, it is possible, but it actually takes 3 or 4 sessions. And there the personality assessment becomes a good tool for us to say that, okay, this is something which you have done, and now you have to decide that what exactly you think about it. The other thing what I do is it's making them realize that what got them here may not take them further. So in their job up till now, these traits might have helped you, but later it may not. So something which they will have to change because the job needs something different from them. The other thing which comes over there is finding out that whether they have picked up these traits as something which were required for their job till now, or they are something which are there originally, they are their own traits. And if they have picked up, what reason is there, and can they just have that self-awareness? And if the reason is not there anymore, can they let go those traits? So these are the different 3 or 4 methods which I typically use
Lovely.
for going further.
Thank you. So what both of you have said something to do with the assessment here, so that they can realize themselves about, based on the reports, based on some data, scientific data, and also sometimes the report from, say, like 360. And Lumina, you said, is one of them. And since you talked about the assessment, the tools and techniques, let me ask this question to Gayatri. Do you use any personality assessment in your coaching practice? And if so, how do they help you in customizing your approach?
So I love psychometrics. I love numbers, statistics, so I think I have a bias towards using instruments. I won't say just assessment.
Louder a bit.
I said I have a liking for psychometrics, I have a liking for numbers. And what I find is coaching requires my client to get a 360-degree view of themselves, because they're looking at the mirror, but they have to turn and somebody has to say what's at the back. So one of the 360 angles comes from the personality assessment. So what I generally do is ask them what they think of themselves, which could be the iceberg above, seen above. Maybe do this and then, if necessary, do a 360. So I do like to do it, but on a practical side, there are some clients who are not very interested in going through the assessment at that time. And of course, cost is a factor. I'm not going to pay for my client's assessment cost. So sometimes cost comes into a factor, but I do use a lot of it, and they are good as a starting block. But as long as you don't box your client and say that this is your type and they don't get wedded to it, it's a great starting point. And especially for the people in the previous question you asked who says, I'm there and I know what to do. This is what people think of you. Would you like to be seen like that? So I think personality assessment helps you give a objective view of that person, but they don't think that, you think like that. Actually, I'm not like that. You can ask 10 other people. So this is a kind of a independent and mostly self-assessed personality. And it's almost like, if I have a cigarette, which I light for my husband all the time, somebody will think I'm a smoker. I don't want to be a smoker. I have to change my action. But if nobody tells me, I won't do it. I know it's a very silly example, but this is something which people need to look at. And I think personality assessment, especially the type like Lumina, where you have underlying, what do you think? And the answer to the question, I think, which Aarti raised, saying that, this is what I have now made myself. This is not what I wanted to be. I was very curious. I've curbed my curiosity. So I think personality assessments, I love them.
Yeah, so it tells you what you think and what you do are different things.
It could be. And also it gives an independent, objective data point.
Yeah, data. Yes. Thank you. What about you, Sandeep? Sorry.
I honestly, first is that while, having been trained, certified in Lumina, that is my preferred tool, but I don't go always with Lumina. I leave it to the client to decide what are the kind of standards they have within the organization, because it's never good to reinvent the wheel. Actually, if given a choice, then one can suggest, okay, you can run this personality, the psychometric assessment, etc. And obviously, the point, I think we as coaches are trained to be non-judgmental. And I think that is the essence, that how can you use the tool, but still not get overly colored by typecasting that person as a certain personality type. And, the more we practice as coaches, the more we get to understand that how the space is challenging, but yet most powerful for a coach to remain a little bit non-judgmental.
So that's an interesting point. So over to Aarti, how do you avoid reducing the person to a type? I think Sandeep just used the word type. And if so, then what are the risks of over-relying on the personality framework in coaching?
Yeah. So to give you some background about this particular aspect, I am also a person who likes numbers and see the graphs and something in front of me. It typically energizes me, and that is because of my background probably. However, throughout my coaching journey as a coach, I had stayed away from the personality assessments or the psychometric assessments. And what I had noticed, that even if client comes with somebody, they have already done some personality assessment, psychometric assessment, and somebody else has read that report, and with that they come to me. I noticed some kind of trends over there that they get boxed into a particular thing. And that is the reason I had resisted till now to get into any psychometric assessment till the time I came across Lumina.
So what's so great about Lumina?
So what what resonated with me about Lumina is Lumina talks about day-to-day, everyday personality and the underlying personality. And when Sonam was introducing me, she talked about me being from strong Vedic philosophical background. So in philosophy also, there are two types of personalities which are talked about one person. One is the Adhyatmic personality, which is the underlying one. And there is one Adhibhautik personality, which is the day-to-day one which comes across for people. And there are a lot of benefits of understanding that for a person, that this is really something I am, but this is how I show up and what are the circumstances. So that is something which resonated with me about Lumina. And that is the reason I came and got myself certified on Lumina. Now coming to your question that how do you resist yourself to reduce someone to a type? So personality assessment is just a doorway. It is not a definition of a person. Person is much more and much more dynamic compared to what the assessment can say. So I do ask these questions. So what is different today compared to what your assessment is showing? That you, according to this, it is like this, but now what is different? What has changed? The other thing which Lumina I have come across is in 4 to 5 years of time, your report can change in Lumina. In most of the other assessments, what I learned about them was that it remains constant. It will never change, which is not something which I can digest. A person in different situation, it changes.
Lovely.
So that is what I do, and asking and leaving the decision to the person that this is what the assessment is showing. You are saying this. What do you think? What do you want to do about it? That actually stops me from reducing the person to a particular type.
Thank you. So I think Sandeep and both you or three have said that as a coach, you don't box the people in types. And you also could relate Adhyatmic, which is the underlying, would you like, and Adhibhautik, believe me, these are two new words for me linking to Lumina, the everyday types or everyday personality. So I think, yeah, that's where you distinguish Lumina over other assessment tools. However, you still say it's up to the client that how they accept it and not as a coach.
I just want to add one thing. See, statistically, the statements are true 95% of the time. So there's always a chance that this person could be an outlier. Okay. So if the coach doesn't box them, they're also less likely to box them.
Great. Thank you. So I think we have got 10 minutes more to go, if I'm right, Sona. Yeah. Okay. So I do have questions in my mind as I'm a very curious person. I'm just giving a pause at the moment instead of asking the question. I'm asking if any other audience have got any question to panelists, please shoot, except me, of course. Anyone, anywhere, any question? And of course, if you're still thinking of what to ask, I can still continue because I have all your questions always in my mind related to coaching. So let's talk about, we talked about the client and the coach, and also many a times and this is more related to when you are coaching people from the organization, not the individuals, but how does this to Sandeep, because it's been quite for some time, so I thought of quoting him. How does organizational culture interacts with personality in the coaching engagement? I mean, the question is like, have you coached someone whose personal style clashes with the company culture? Because you may come across with the people like that who who are good or may not be good, but definitely there's not gelling with the organization culture. And if that happens, how you're dealing with that?
So the way I look at it, that there is a certain degree of friction always between what the individual's preferences are versus the organizational culture. And the reason is that what is organizational culture? To me, the organizational culture is a statistical mean of individual behaviors, values, beliefs. And that is the way most of the people are most of the time, but not always, and not all the people. So there are bound to be those deviations. I think as a coach, our job is to help people assess whether that deviation is a friction to manage, is it a strength to leverage, or is it a signal that the ecosystem may not be supporting your best self, from a client's perspective? So that's really what I think, the way I, in my work, try and leverage a little bit this dissonance between the individual personalities and the organizational culture. I think the realization that there will never be an organization where your personality will be 100% matched with the organization culture. That itself is sometimes very empowering, that, okay, there are these one or two areas where maybe, my personality is very different from the way most of this organization is. But then there are so many other areas where both of us work well together. So I think that's really, it's not for me to decide, but it's for me to create a space for the client to reflect on.
So, as a coach, what's your role there? Is you be impartial or non-judgmental, or you try and get the person to align to organization, or how do you coach?
So for me, my objective is to help somehow to help the client think through their own space and build the way forward for themselves.
Perfect.
I will only create that place for reflection.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. How about you, Gayatri?
So, I am a little bit of a skeptic on this organization culture front, because what the organization states on paper could be very different
I
from
think your
what it
voice
is.
is going low.
Yeah, I'm saying
Yeah,
what
now
the
it is better.
organization states in words may be very different from what is in practice. So it doesn't generally come into my coaching as such, except depending on the client's own discomfort. So I don't look at his or her personality and the culture and say conflict. If they find it, yes. I also feel that my client is empowered enough to affect the culture if they think it needs to change in some ways. And if they cannot fit in at all, I'm coaching the client. I'm sorry to say that. I'm not coaching for the organization. So some of them will have a eureka moment perhaps. So I'm not very bothered about the way the culture is stated, but I can see the way the culture is coming. And when I do multiple clients from the same organization, the subcultures are amazing and very different from each other. So not able to pinpoint saying this is the organization culture which is there in practice. So I think we should not worry too much about it, but worry about how it impacts this person and their goals.
So both of you are coming to conclusion that you support the client to create their own way path forward. You don't really are much bothered, as you said, Gayatri, about what the culture is in
It's
Japan,
stated
right?
to be, yeah.
Okay, good. And what about going beyond the culture when coaching across the different cultures? Because I've worked with the different cultures across the globe, and I know how it varies the person and impacts the personality, the way we think, the way we work. And for me, at least, it has given me every time a shock.
Yes.
Because I have to challenge every time a new country, new culture has given me to shake up myself and change my thinking. So when the coaching across the different culture happens, how do you adjust both the personality and the cultural context without making any assumptions as a coach?
Okay.
And this is to maybe Gayatri.
Yeah, so I do look at what the culture is. Sometimes I talk to people from that culture, maybe look at Hofstad. Not that it's all that clear, but having coached people from different cultures, say, for example, I coached someone in Philippines. You know, it's a very country where religion plays a big part. But if I'm coaching three people, even their own personalities are so different. So I think just an open-minded curiosity about them and an acceptance. So let me give you an example. I was coaching someone and he says, I'm having trouble with my third wife. And immediately I was like, third time, I mean, you still haven't figured out? Because, you know, we're not used to coaching people who have got these kind of issues. But then you stop and look at it. What would you do if you were in their place? Now, if you're able to put yourself into that milieu, I think it's easier to understand them. But some things like, you know, for example, speech, the speed with which you speak, the words you use. So if it's not an English speaking culture, use simpler words,
Yeah.
you know, or so those kind of nuances you have to do. And if you can, get curious and read about their culture.
Yeah, good. What about maybe Aarti, if you have some exposure or would like to add here something?
Definitely. So I have some clients who are from China, Israel, Palestine, and Singapore. So these kind of countries, and of course, a couple of them in Germany. So what I noticed is what the difference comes is culture is a context, and within that context, you are coaching. So if the culture is more resonating with your kind of culture, or it is the same culture, it is quite easy to become non-judgmental and leave it to the process and more go with the flow. Here you become more and more conscious that whether I'm non-judgmental or not. Is it my bias about a particular culture? Is it my belief about a particular culture? Do I know enough about this particular situation? So what I do typically in these situations is, one thing is, before getting into a coaching session, that 10 minutes time, many of us have that practice where we just sit quietly, and some of the things I go over, that these are the things I need to be aware of, acknowledge and dispose it off during the coaching session if that comes up, judgment comes up. The other thing which I do is I consciously try and upgrade myself on my cultural quotient by reading, by watching some movies which are from the similar culture, etc. So that is something which helps. And definitely that self-awareness, knowing about it, that it is not same as what I think, that itself is a big help in these kind of situations.
Great. So I think we are at the exact time now. Any one-liner, all of you, three of you can give for the new budding coaches, how to, like how to manage this dance between personality and coaching, if they can start people like me?
So I have just one thing to say. Before you talk about the dance between you and the coachee, look at the dance between you and your personality. That can align. Chances of dancing better with the coachee is higher.
Okay, good.
What I will say is, in the coaching room, bring yourself as whole along with your personality and let the process unfold.
Thank you. Sandeep.
Yeah, I like to go with this. A lot of times I read this quote both as a facilitator and a coach. I think to curb the urge to be the sage on the stage and be the guide on the side. I think that's really for me what gets me into that space as a coach or a facilitator.
Beautiful. I think the session has been quite open and not been used with a lot many complicated words, with practical examples. And if I do a summarizing of this, I think I'll be doing injustice to this panel discussion because you've been so clear about it. So a lot of intakes for me from all the discussions. Yes, I'm sure the people who join and maybe stayed there may have also got something to get it implemented in the practice. Thank you very much to Lumina India, Mahak, Sonam, and of course the Rahul for organizing this. If you have anything to say, please speak up, Rahul, as a closing remarks.
Thank you, Sanjeev. You know, can't go wrong with you moderating any panel. We have enough of charm going around, and also hidden in the charm are some very thought-provoking questions. And I do, yes, appreciate that there was no complicated use of jargon or language. You know, that itself is the coach approach. I love the way the dance metaphor was taken up, you know, because it's so much about rhythm, which is both scripted and then also needs improvisation. And it's a reminder to us coaches that we learned a rigor, but we also have to learn to unlearn. And that's also true for life. You know, any art form has to be learned and then unlearned. And I also found that importance of self-awareness in a coach. Because what do we say in Lumina? That personality is a double-edged sword. Every personality will contribute, but can equally block if not managed well. And I found that some of the things that were said, and I'm struggling to attribute each remark I picked up from. And I made these points as a self-reminder. It's so easy to get caught up in ego, you know, which comes in the way of self-awareness. So I have to constantly remind ourselves, who am I serving? And they say it's coach's job to like set the agenda and the pace. I also liked, I think it was Aarti who talked about how sometimes you can get bucketed into a corner to become a mentor or a consultant, you know, and we have to hold our coach integrity. If we are in our right judgment, have to switch roles, I think those should be announced. I mean, my view, of course, is that rather than be rigid, let's focus on getting the job done and serving the client. But also be very clear when you are approaching the mentor role or a trainer role. Sometimes that may be required. So I just think we need to be very clear. And I think that thought came to me when Sandeep said, don't be that sage and don't be that guide. You know, be very clear. You're a coach, you know, and constantly come back to the middle of the court every time. Finally, I think a couple of things came for me that assessment is just an aid. It's data. The coach and the client and every human being is bigger than their report. And frankly, I feel that in all of this, I distribute Lumina, but for me, the coach is always bigger than any test. So those were some of my summaries. And again, Sanjeev, so big thanks to you, panelists, all of you brought in such openness. It's really nice for me to guys serve like a little reminder. So thank you, Sanjeev. Back to you.
Thank you. It's time to say thank you to everyone. Thanks,
Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.